Welcome everyone. Today we have a Wolcen online account guide. As you might have seen some of the videos with the combination of Bleeding Edge and a hybrid Summoner Mage, so here I spent the time to make an actual guide for it. So right at the start, we have two living mortars, which are the golems, and by summoning the golem with more HP perked, we can go into currently about 1 million HP, and we do have the golem to debuff enemies with toxic, and also having the golem shares damage. So we have two golems to share the damage. Now summon those. After summoning the golems, and those are not shot by the numbers, I also have a really good resistance. So this is not contributing by the golems, but from my items. I'm currently sitting at 82% resistance from the heavy armor I'm wearing, and also I'm wearing lots of heavy armor, and most of them actually have pretty good resistance. I'm using the Force Waver and also the Trial. Now if you have seen our build with the Exploding Force Shield Mage, you actually don't need the Trial, you don't need the Force Waver. Those can be adjusted. I'm looking towards to adjust them, but it's harder to find online items compared to offline. After that, we'll be using Anomaly, and with Anomaly we just pause enemies in, we Globe Explosion them, and after that, I'll go through all the details with the skills with you guys. After that, we have two sorts of debuff. Burn and Shock over here. We have Shock and Weakness. Anomaly give us status. The golems give us toxic damage with the inflict of elements. Lastly, our Bleeding Edge will give us freeze and bleeding. The freeze actually becomes a critical chance with Force Waver, so look at 71% critical damage, a critical chance, and 400% critical damage. So let's look into this build in action with a replay, and after that I go through the talents and also the perks with you guys, also the items. So here we're going to go into an Untainted run with this particular online build, and as you can see we found the perfect one, chance of enemies to spawn weaker enemies, and this allows us to explode them with the Mark of Impurity. If you don't have the Trial, what you do is you lose one of the golems, you just have the Mark manually casted, which is the same thing, because you'll be using a dagger here as well. So going into it, usually the build is very straightforward. You see a lot of numbers on the screen because we proc multiple things. We'll be proccing Globe Explosion with Anomaly, so when the globes are falling into Anomaly, they actually explode for additional damage. And Anomaly also debuff them with status, so the 1.5 second delay damage pop will come in as well. After that, we have the Ice Fall and also the Ballhawk of Dawn, which does a lot of debuff to enemies. When they are super debuffed, our weapon with enough physical damage and also force elements give us high critical chance with the Bleeding Edge. And most of the runs you see are clear will be very straightforward. I collect them together, debuff them, and explode them. If I don't have the Trial, I'll be manually casting the Explosion, having one less golem. The fact about this build is it requires the low maintenance of the items. I don't need the Force Waver, it just helps with the critical chance, but without that I'll be much more durable. That means I can lose the golem, I can have another source of damage. And that source of damage will likely come into the spells as well. So the theory of the build is because you have the Trial, which most of the builds still use that. We do have builds that doesn't use it, but it still helps with the progression of the game. Because AoE clear is so easy with that, and I don't think they will take it away, but they might reduce the damage of it. Usually you collect enemies together, you explode them. And this Untainted run will be pretty straightforward, and you can see me sailing through it because I don't have to worry about resistance and defensive mechanics. My whole build makes me so much more durable with the golems, and I can just face tank almost everything. I do have the Disallowing Vessel, which if I stand still, I increase damage, also resistance. As you can see, I basically try to find a valuable collection of units, we group them together, we explode them, and we move to the next one. This will be much more effective than me trying to kill one unit at a time, and this also allows me to progress quicker to the boss. It's also about efficiency with the game as well, especially RPG games. So here I found a dead end, and I was like, hey, might want to run this way. So I decided to run this way. What you're gonna find is I'm not terribly good with directions, and very soon I'm gonna get lost in the maze here. So let's have a look here. Basically, again, we collect them, we explode them. The Bleeding Edge was nerfed, from 20% increased damage to about 2% increased damage per element, but that still works here, simply because the Bleeding Edge will be looking at enemies that's over 100 stacks, and that still helps us a lot. And on the chance the Bleeding Edge don't do enough damage, we still have the ability to explode enemies, ability to do massive multiple instances of damage with the spells. And having the Immortal Offering makes me so durable. I also have the perks that increase the globe regen and also the globe drop rate. A lot of globes are being spawned, and I'm using those globes to heal me as well. So every time my health goes low, I have lifesteal, I have globe regen. This is the part you're gonna see me. I will be a little lost here. I'll skip a little bit. So basically, I saw the boss's summon. I'm like, hey, let me run this way. So I ran all the way to the top. I realized the boss is not here. So I ran downwards. I ran backwards. I literally ran half the map backwards to find where the boss is. So here with the boss. Now the bosses with the new update no longer have regeneration. The toughness is also weaker, which is really good. We're still looking at a pretty tanky boss, about 83 minutes. And the best part about the Bleeding Edge hybrid build is that you don't have to be looking for units to explode with your trial or with your Mark of Impurity, because as you just focus on the boss and debuff him enough, the Bleeding Edge itself will do enough damage with or without a trial, as long as you manually cast it. So it took us about 4 minutes and 50 seconds for this Untainted run. And you can see the highest crits are not that high, simply because we're not using the explosion of damage a lot. We're using Bleeding Edge for the consistent source of damage. So coming over here into the particular choice of the perks, here we have everything going to toughness. Everything else we pretty much got from the gears. Everything to toughness, and the build at the moment does use Force Waiver and the trial. If I don't have Force Waiver, I'll go 1-to-1 with Ferocity for critical chances. If I don't have the trial with the dagger here, I need to replace the sword with the dagger. I can just remove one of the liver mortars. If you look into my stats, 71% critical chance with the Force Waiver. Without it, we can look at about 55% critical chance with Ferocity. After that, critical damage is close to 400. Resistance are very solid, just with enough gear that give flat resistance stats on the gear. Block chance is okay, 34%, nothing too major. And there isn't anything too interesting on the board here. We'll go directly into the talent tree. This talent tree currently is more tweaked towards having a Force Waiver because we use element chances for critical chance. But if I don't have that, what I'll do is I'll lose those perks, I'll actually get those for the critical chance. That's the only difference. So going directly, we'll be going for the critical damage and into the elements. We want to debuff as many elements as we can. We even want to crit on elements because we crit so often. So we're going here with the 2 additional element stacks, and here we can stack 10 maximum more, and here we have Immortal Offering. Until they nerfed it, this is the best source of damage for the debuff field. But if you're going for the Juggernaut Explosion with my other mage Force Shield, you don't need this one as well. It does help a little bit. After that, you can have increased chance of multiply. I usually only go for 1, I don't go for those 2. You get the double elements, which is a must-have. Here we'll be doing some uncommon damage, and this is not a must-have, so these 5 points can be removed. This contributes to about 15% of my damage, so that's 7% damage for the curse unit, and this goes up by 210%. The sudden death means I can one-shot units under 15%. This contributes to 15% of my damage, and this is optional, but it does help with damage. After that, we can curve onto here. Because we'll be grouping enemies together, we do 5% for each enemy that's grouped up. That's about 50% when there's 10 of them. Sometimes they do summon more of them. And because I sometimes have a bit of unspent rage, this is a small multiplier. Because it only costs 1 point, I took it here. After that, this is a massive multiplier for damage. Because this one is not added on, the monster just takes 25% more damage. And we easily debuff them with status. And this is a really good point. After getting this, we'll be getting some defensive points. The Salvatory Anchor and also having the elevated game means the helmet and the chest does something for us. Here, only the helmet does resistance. The chest actually does nothing for us because it's a rogue chest. I'll show you guys here. So, if we come over here with the particular perks, if I take the helmet off, you can see my resistance. It falls by about 50%. So maybe not 50%, maybe 40%. And the chest actually does nothing. The chest is a rogue chest. It only works when I dodge. So after I dodge by 6%, I regain about 2000 force shield. So the chest itself is actually very weak for defensive reasons. We can't socket it, we can't get much gain from that. So the chest is just for offensive. The balance is about the chest is pretty valuable for offensive, but if you lack the defensive survivability, definitely get a resistance chest. A heavy resistance chest with about 600 plus resistance would be great. Also, you can socket it for more resistance, more HP. This allowing vessel is pretty good because we'll be standing still, we get more resistance, we get 60% more damage. Movement speed is okay, because, you know, if we're not moving, we don't have to worry about movement speed. After that, we'll be getting the critical damage, and this is actually a pretty good trade-off, even after nerf. We're taking the globe radius because whenever a globe spawns, we'll pick up the globe for 2 reasons. One is that we're going to heal. Second to that, we'll be getting resistance up on each of the globe. This doesn't stack up, but 40% resistance is very valuable. We also spawn small globes with this perk, 4%. We'll also get the 10% critical damage. On top of that, the globes we pick up will stop the server from crashing, because sometimes the server crashes online when there's too many globes, so this also helps out. We'll be perking into the defensive talents with resistance, and we get the block chances with anything. I stopped getting the 20% efficiency because I'm a little cheap on points, so I have other points that gives me block efficiency, I think. We just naturally have about 15 or 17, so we don't have to worry about that. I will be getting when I block, I debuff enemy with weakness, because this allows weakness to increase the damage taken, which is really good. And after that, we'll be looking, where is it? We'll be looking over here, that's right. So we'll be looking over here because I want to do the Dire Juncture. I didn't even take this additional force shield and HP points, because this is about 5000 force shield and HP, but I don't really mind having 5000 less or more, because it's all into ferocity for me. What I want is the 10 plus max elements and also the status effect. This increased damage taken by enemies on the status effect by 120%. And that is the majority of my perks. I can adjust a little bit, because if I don't have the force waiver, I'll remove those, we'll get those. And after that, I think we can consider removing some of those, because we'll be critting with those. We can remove this, and maybe removing that, I can go with more of the perks over here for more damage. After we look at the talents, let's look into the particular choice of the perks. The summons are just here to tank for us, so everything that gives us HP will be helpful. So HP, threats, and more perks will be really good. This is the crucial one, and also this allows us to have the poison debuff. You can see in the replay we'll have about 6 or 7 plus debuff, because this contributes to one of them. Same perks for this one as well, so you just duplicate it with the NPC over here. You first go to our friend here to allow for the duplication. Wait, where was it? It's this one, right?
Hi there. Any chance
This allows for duplication once you unlock this one, and then you come to her and click onto one of your spells that you want to duplicate. You go here to duplicate once. After you duplicate once over here by clicking this particular duplicate, it will be appearing here. You can duplicate again for the 3rd tier, so you can have 3 of the same spells. They do share the same cooldown as well, keep that in mind. So if I cast this will be on cooldown. But it's okay with summons, because with summons, well, we just summon here, right? Anomaly. Anomaly is actually a major source of the damage, because Anomaly has increased area effect, the increased reaction, and this explode the globes we summon. This does about 20% of my AoE damage, and it's actually really good for the debuffs as well. I'll be casting 2 of them, and I also drag enemies with me. Next up, let's look into the perk for the tier. We'll be changing the tier's attributes from freeze and shock into the burn and shock. I have the added damage to spells with shock, so this way all my spells have a bit of shock in it. And the spells can have its own individual attributes. Here it's status with anomaly, here was freeze, and I turn that into burn with tier, and we'll be perking into the reaction, so it's not a one shot, it's a damage over time. And also lower cooldown, reduce willpower, increase armament chance, and also reduce cooldown. This contributes to about 5% of my AoE damage, but it's really good debuff. So it's very consistent, and it's a lot of procs for the globes. After that, Ballhawk of Dawn will increase my resistance, also does damage over time with shock and weakness debuff. After that, we can get skill reactions, healing ticks, cooldown reduction. This one will follow me, and lastly we increase ailment chances by standing in the effect, which is really good for me. So altogether I have 1, 2, 3 really good debuff and a Golem's debuff. Lastly, with Bleeding Edge, I'll be going for ailment stacks for more damage, I'll be going for the increased rotation for 1 second, weapon damage, critical damage, and also increased projectile speed. This altogether adds to pretty sizable damage, and I don't have the perk that actually allows me to do double damage when I have rage over 750. So I'm more of a mage that uses Bleeding Edge, so I'm not reliant on Bleeding Edge generally. I don't have my rage over 700 most of the time, and I still do a ton of damage. As for items, we do want ice damage on the weapon for attacks. This way the second highest damage on the Bleeding Edge is actually ice, over even underwind. So this allows me to have freeze chance to 0 and gives me really high critical chance. So Bleeding Edge is here just to apply bleeding, poison is applied by Liver Mortis, everything else applies a different debuff. And after having the weapon, you'll be looking at a lot of flat stats. You want element ailment chances because you have Force Waiver. That increased my critical chance by about 9% with 322% increased ailment chances. Critical damage, flat damage is really good. After that, the catalyst, you want any of the spell damage you want that increased another ailment. For me, it was lightning. I got spell damage, I'm looking for ailment chances and critical damage, which I didn't find here. For the boots and all the other items, I'll be looking for high resistance, movement speed for the boots, toughness or ferocity or willpower. Usually toughness is the best one, because it's the consistent one. Here I got ferocity, I got increased resistance on this one, which is really good, and pretty good cooldown, so this is a really good pants. The trial is optional, so if I don't have the trial, I get the menu cast of the mark, which is over here. After that, we can have the high resistant gloves. Those are not perfect gloves, I just found them randomly, and some of them are spared by our friend Miss and also Mark, by Kim as well, and my other friend who found something in his inventory as well, so those are definitely spared out. And I don't need material damage, I just need toughness, resistance. You can see the resistance on the gear is not high, but after the gear, these numbers of resistance that's flatly added. So similar to shoulders, toughness, similar to here, toughness, resistance and critical chance. The helmet needs cooldown, needs really high resistance, and also needs more good things. So we didn't get the roll on the toughness, unfortunately. We got the agility, but everything else is pretty good here. Amulets, nothing too special, we just want increased ailment stacks here for 2 more. And additional HP is not bad, everything else is okay here. As for the rings, you want critical damage on the white text on top of the modifiers. You also want a bit of health, resistance, etc. There's no need to have high damage on the rings, but it does help. So you can see I have lightning added and also the fire added to attacks. Also a bit of resistance, critical chance, and a bit of random things. Those rings are really random. For the sockets, helmets, the belts, you have 3 sockets availability with the Force Waiver, otherwise you have 6. I recommend balancing resistance and HP. Having 80k HP and having globe regen and also lifesteal, I won't die that easily, so I went for more resistance. For the catalyst, transfer time, block chance, resistance, HP can work. And for the rings, everything is about transfer time. So let me show you guys the whole combo. With this whole combo, look at my transfer time. It happens almost instantly, and all I have to do is just click. The moment I have too much willpower and rage, I just press one of the potions and it just helps with the rage. And it's so smooth and convenient. I'm basically a piano player that's clicking my keys. So this is a short guide of the build and it's an update for the online build. Let me know what you guys think about it. Subscribe for more builds and more guides with offline and online accounts, and also for more ARPG guides as well. Thank you so much for watching, guys. So let me know in the comments below, what do you want to look forward to the future? Do you have any ideas for the builds that's to come? And what do you think about the later updates and the features for the game? Thank you so much for watching, guys. I'll see you guys next time.